first of all, for coming. You know, for many years now, the Anglophones have felt frustrated by the way they are treated in their own country. They voted to join the Republic of Cameroon in good faith, but the way they are being treated, it is as if they are a conquered people. So those frustrations have built up over the years. And that's why when lawyers and teachers went on strike, the ordinary Anglophone, let's just say use that word Anglophone, decided to take advantage to express, that's to vent his anger. Because all attempts at dialogue over the years have failed. Kofi Annan, as Secretary General of the United Nations, came here and recommended dialogue, ignored. The African Human Rights Commission at Banjul came out with a ruling recommending dialogue and offering its offices to guide the dialogue. 7 years after, nothing has happened. So you see that normally a strike means abstaining from activities. If therefore people went to the streets, it is out of frustrations. Let us vent our anger. This is an opportunity. That's what's happening. And the situation has degenerated because instead of the government handling it maturely, they sent people to go and shoot to kill. And they have killed people. That has helped to radicalize even those who went on strike and sent in demands. They are now radicalized to say, no, if this is the pay for us asking for dialogue, then we'd better be on our own. If you don't want to listen to us, you don't want to solve our problems, then leave us alone. And that's where we are today.
But the Banjul ruling and Kofi Annan, they were talking about dialogue with the SCNC at the time. Now it's a whole different ballgame.
No, but who is SCNC? SCNC emerged from all Anglophone conferences. We had all Anglophone conference in Biya, another one in Bamenda. They came out with a pile of demands. We have grievances. Mr. President, these are our grievances. Can you dialogue with us? Let us know. Let us look for a way to sort things out. Till today, the President has not as much as acknowledged receipt of memo. So SCNC now waited, as the people waited and had no reply, nothing, they decided to set up a body that would talk in their name. And that body was called Southern Cameroon's National Council, SCNC. So SCNC is not an organ, just a body as such. It is representative of the Anglophones. It is from SCNC that SCAPO, Southern Cameroon's People's Organization, named after Swapo in Southwest Africa, now Namibia, and then SCYL, Southern Cameroon's Youth League. So they emerged from SCNC. And therefore, there's no difference really talking about SCNC and Anglophones as such, because SCNC is just representative of the Anglophones.
That might explain why we have some leaders of the SCNC who are members of the list that you put up, or that I proposed.
No, the list I put up, arose as a result of people going to the streets and getting killed. Those who called the strike did not ask people to go to the streets. So I saw that the demands by the teachers and the lawyers were limited, whereas the thing is now all embracing. And the only way we could contain the people who had gone lawless was to come up with a list of Anglophone leaders who would now guide the people. No, don't do this. Stay at home. Do that. don't. So that was the essence of the list. And that list, had to embrace all the groups. The lawyers are there, the teachers are there, SNC, Scalpo, Anglophone leaders in general. So that was the essence of that list. And that list is my brainchild. I came up with the list.
So where are we with the list now?
Well, in a situation like this where people are virtually living under a state of emergency, it's not easy to bring the people together. We've programmed a meeting for today. It couldn't hold in the first place because I am in a seminar. In the second place, the government is trying to dialogue with the teachers and the lawyers. So people must be free. We're looking for a time which is convenient for everybody so that we come together and set up at least a smaller group out of the people on that list so that they can act on the spur of the moment in cases of emergency. So that meeting is still to come up.
So are all the members ready to work with the group?
Well, for now, there are a few members who have not contacted yet, but the response has been simply wonderful up to now. People were waiting for that. In fact, when this list was published, 2 other groups published, and there's hardly a group that did not have at least 1,000 comments. And 96% of the comments are positive, that it was a thing they had been waiting for over the months.
So is there a roadmap for this group that you already have, which you intend to present for modifications and maybe...
as I said, that was a proposed list. In fact, most of the ideas were mine. I thought that these are the people who, if they came together, would be able to constitute English Cameroonian leadership team. So there's no roadmap yet. It is when the group meets that they will decide on what to do, who should be in whatever position. It is true that I said, since things were so hot and they were killing people, bloodshed everywhere, there were atrocities, people were locked up, I suggested that even before the list, the people on the list could meet, let 3 people come forward and try to guide the conduct of our citizens for their own protection, so that they don't go out of hand as they were doing. A strike does not permit anybody to go starting fires or burning places. It doesn't. So that was the essence.
So in your opinion, how will this group guide the actions of those bike riders who are in Kumbo, Kumba and Bamenda?
Now with the modern telecommunication technology, it's very easy. Just put something on the internet now, and in the next few minutes, people will have shared it to the remotest corners of the country. So if this group was made known, as I've told you, the reaction on the internet is fantastic, far beyond what we expected. So if this group came up and said, look, we are here, listen to us. Because now there's nobody who is really saying listen to us, neither the lawyers nor the teachers who initially started. So if this group came up and told people, look, we are here to guide you so that we avoid you being maimed, you being forced to drink water from the sewage system, robbing women, breaking into houses and removing students and torturing them. Some of them are still under detention. We say, no, that's not what we want. All we want is dialogue. So listen to us. I would imagine they would listen. From the reaction on the internet, they would listen.
But, at the moment, they might already have their leaders.
No, but the list I proposed was to embrace virtually every group that exists, every Anglophone group that exists today.
Okay.
In fact, at one time I said, let us put together only elders who would advise the youth. The reaction on the internet was that, no, bring in youths. And we brought in 4. And at the moment, the new list contains 4 young persons. And so whether they have leaders or not, if the group comes into effective existence, we'll be able to give instructions through the leaders of the various groups
Now, what would this group be asking for? Federation or secession?
No, I do not know why people talk about secession. We have told people over the years, over the decades, that there are two peoples in Cameroon. The Anglophones are recognized by the international community as a people. Then there's the Francophone also are a people. There are two peoples in Cameroon. And the two people can only be in one country through two ways. The United Nations has laid down the ways two peoples can be in one country, either by association or by assimilation. And that is done in writing, and the document that evidences the fact that the two peoples have come to be in one country must be deposited in the Secretariat General of the United Nations. In Cameroon, there is no such document, so that nobody in Cameroon can properly talk about secession because we've never been one. We are two different people. Whether we are going to be two countries apart or we are going to be together, it is only when we are at the round table that we come to a conclusion. Are we together as a unitary state? Are we together as a federation? Are we going to part ways? It is only at the round table. Nobody can give an answer. For instance, you see now people are out for what they call independence. Others are for a federation of two states. Some are for 4 states, 7 states, 10 states. It's only at the round table that the majority will decide if it is a federation of how many federated states. So the primary thing is dialogue. And at the table we should be able to arrive at what is agreeable to the majority.
If I were to go by what you just explained, it means we are starting from scratch.
No, but
you say there was no unification.
There's nothing. I have said that over and over and over. You see, you hear the American people, the French people, the British people. There's no country with two peoples. If there's a country with two peoples, as the case of Tanzania, Tanganyika and Zanzibar, the United Nations charter has laid down a process by which that has to be achieved. I've already explained. They must come together, put down in writing, we bring together and deposit that document at the United Nations Secretariat. So in our case, there's nothing like that.
With this option, many people will think that government will not really go in for this and they would prefer to dialogue with lawyers and teachers and not with this list.
No, lawyers you see, those are industrial conflicts. Lawyers are saying that, for instance, I went to a certain very highly praised personality in this country, and the lawyer said, what? We are going to call off the strike if the government gives back our robes, our wigs. They set up a commission of inquiry to investigate the atrocities, undertake to punish those who committed the atrocities, don't call off the strike. That concerns only lawyers. That's nothing to do with the Anglophones. The teachers have their own grievances, although it concerns our children. That one too is limitative. So those are industrial differences. We don't want to iron out with the authorities. But we are talking about the general Anglophone problem.
But now that when they came up with the consortium, their point was that they want a federation or a federal system which they believe will solve all the problems of the Anglophones.
You see, as I've said, what they are doing is a good thing for their careers. But
the federation...
the Anglophone thing did not start with this tribe. It's something we started in the 80s even. But Dinka was the first to say, look, although Fonon had said it before, he said it with a bit of fear. But the man who came out openly and said, look, the Anglophones are mistreated, and therefore the Anglophone soldiers should take up arms and overthrow the government so as to free themselves of Dinka in the 80s. He wrote a book called The New Social Order. I have some copy somewhere. And it has been going on through Cameroon Anglophone movement, SENC, up to where we are now. Teachers and lawyers cannot speak in the name of the Anglophones because it's very limited. It's something which has been ongoing. So it is the Anglophones as a people that would speak, send people to whoever and say, let us sit down and talk. Those people cannot really talk in the name of all the Anglophones as they are trying to do.
What if government dialogue with them instead?
It will be all the worse for Anglophones because we are going to fail a second time. Don't forget that it is the teachers who got us into the mess, into the can we stay marriage that we are in today. Teachers they are very intelligent people, yes. They teach all of us. Nobody is whatever he is without passing through a teacher. But it is limited. When they go there, they cannot draft a law. However intelligent they are, you need legal jargon to be able to draft a law.
But they are working with lawyers right now.
No, they were lawyers in 1961. Egbe Tabi was a lawyer, whoever. That did not help the situation. We need a wider, scope. We should not limit ourselves again as it was the case in Fumbana. He just came, discussed with Foncha, and then gave him a document they called the Federal Constitution. No, we should not make that mistake again.
So what if that happens? What will the group that you are setting up, what will it do? Just fold its arms and say, okay.
No, there are so many instances where we can challenge such a situation. There are courts, regional courts, world courts. We can go to the Hague. They have the UN Commission at the Hague. We can even table matters at the level of the United Nations. Now there's a possibility for a non-member state to table a matter before the General Assembly.
Which means this group looks to work beyond the protest that we have right now.
Absolutely. The essence why we came up with this group immediately was to put an end to the atrocities, to the lawlessness in which the strike, that is the way the strike was going out of the normal. That was the essence of this group, to put an end to that, and then now look forward to settling what is known in Cameroon as the Anglophone problem once and for all.
Now, don't you think that this is some sort of creating a new SCNC to start going to courts again, going through the same processes
that
have been going through in the past years?
If SCNC has been there since the 90s, the early 90s, and things have not worked, nothing prevents us from coming up with a new, some kind of think tank to accelerate things. Because SCNC is almost spent. In fact, the group that has been really active on the ground is SCAPO. Even the case taken to the Gambia was by SCAPO. And today SCAPO is working with unrepresented people organization and all.
UNPO.
SCAPO is very active. So it's not creating a new SCNC as such. It is a group that is out for dialogue. And if dialogue fails, we go our separate ways.
How feasible is that?
It's feasible in...
going our separate ways.
No, but that's why we want dialogue and want the dialogue to succeed. We come out with a federation because we'll be able to manage our things at the local level.
But we hear government has said federation is off the table.
Well, normally in dialogue, in negotiations, when it comes to negotiations, you start aiming very high and you begin to make concessions. Somebody starts somewhere, you start somewhere, you make concessions and shift towards the center. The person makes and shifts towards the center until you get to the center and have a fair copy. Everybody makes concessions. So the government can say that. But I wouldn't imagine that any reasonable government would go out killing people and will kill people indefinitely. Don't forget, today, the world is a global village. Amnesty International is already asking Cameroon to account for people who are arrested and their whereabouts are unknown. You see, no longer like the Panda 9 of 2008. Now the whole world, there are so many human rights organizations. I founded a human rights organization who are working round the clock called Justice for All. Let me tell you one thing which very many people will be afraid to tell you. The troubles of Cameroon have been worsened from the day Biya acceded to power. In less than 2 years, he changed the name of the country from United Republic back to the Republic of Cameroon as it was at independence in 1960, before ever the Anglophones voted in a plebiscite. In 1990, he celebrated the 30th anniversary of the independence of the Republic of Cameroon, and he came up with a map which excluded the Anglophone part of this country. And
what year was that?
1990, the 30th anniversary. 30th anniversary means from 60. Before ever we were said to have joined, whether we joined de jure or de facto. So he has gone back, and that in the eyes of lawyers is secession if ever we were one. He has done that, and today he excludes the possibility of even discussing. He makes federation a taboo, and yet every year he goes to the stadium. Fédération Camerounaise de foot. He goes and presides. Camerounaise de this. Fédération. What is wrong with having a federation? The truth is that no human being lives forever. If he says federation is out of the question, there will one day be a person who will take over and say, look, that is the only way we can have competitiveness and the country will develop. It's going to come to pass. Remember that in 1990, they went out and shot people who wanted multi-party system. They sent out people and they marched in the name of Dimabola. But multi-party came to pass, even though he was initially against it to the point of killing citizens. So it is not in saying that he does not want federation that people should imagine one day Cameroon will not be a federation. Nobody is eternal.
So now that you have been very active in this movement, has it affected your job at the Supreme Court in any way?
People have been sending me death threats and all that, but those things are meaningless to me. For us to enjoy the independence today, people died. They never saw independence. You fight for a cause for the benefit of maybe yourself and others, or others to the exclusion of yourself. I don't care about whether it affects my job, but we should do the right thing. And the countries that are developing, even in Africa, are countries that are federations. The most united countries like America are federations. Nigeria next door. Why do people imagine that in Cameroon a federation means divisiveness? And now that we are united, what have we achieved? 34 years of renewal. Even you cannot find a single good road in Cameroon. The potholes have become craters, big craters. What have we achieved? If being together in united, indivisible means development. Why are we not developing?
So if you were to define the Anglophone problem in your own words, or to describe it, what would you say?
We must sit at the table.
No, I mean the Anglophone problem. If you are to identify it or to describe it, what would you
say? That's what I mean. That
okay.
Up to now, Anglophones are not really part of the Republic of Cameroon in the eyes of the law. It is a de facto situation, but in the eyes of the law, there is no treaty of union between Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon. There is no treaty of union. And so they are occupying us, going to kill us, and so on. It's just that people imagine that might is right.
In the 1972 referendum, what was it all about?
That's where the trouble started, properly speaking. Because Article 47 of Ahidjo's own constitution that he imposed provided that the federation was, sacrosanct. It was sacred. But Ahidjo went against it by organizing what he called a peaceful revolution in a referendum. No, that's where trouble started. That thing of 72, if it were today that we have so many lawyers, the thing would not have come to pass. It was a fraud on the majority.
Chiruma was saying the other day that if Anglophones are bringing anything to the discussion table, it should tie with the Constitution and Federation.
Do we ever have a constitution in Cameroon? The federal constitution lasted how many years before Ahidjo brushed it aside? Ahidjo brushed it aside. 10 years or 12 years after, Biya brushed it aside. For 6 years later, he brushed it aside. Since 1996, they said there's a constitution. All the institutions provided for in the constitution are still waiting, for implementation. Does Cameroon have a constitution? They amend the constitution, increasing its mandate to 7 years, renewable once. He agrees before the people. He gets into a social contract. At the end of the 14 years, he amends the constitution to go on forever. Can Cameroon be said to have a constitution if Chiroma were not a parrot? He just parodied. They tell him and he parodied. The parodies rather. He just throws back what he has imbibed. Do we have a constitution? Which country in the world which has a constitution? Outside Cameroon, you see that the president of that country goes away for 30 days, for 40 days, continuously. Which other country, apart from Cameroon?
But they have the power to implement the constitution when they want and where they want it.
But that's not a constitution. A constitution is binding. First of all, whoever is said to have drafted it, whatever they call it, the man, that's not a constitution, because it makes the president higher than the constitution itself. You cannot make one man head of the executive, head of the legislature, head of the armed forces, head of the judiciary, head of everything. That person is stronger than the constitution. So he just rubbishes the constitution, toys with it as he wills.
If we were to look ahead, when do you think the working group you are putting in place can be effective or can be operational?
No, we were to meet today, but as I told you, they are holding meetings, the government is holding meetings with teachers, with the lawyers. I myself have been in a seminar for 11 days, so the meeting of today flopped. But everything being able, by the 10th of the week, we will have met and put in place a working body.
So what if the consortium, what if they succeed to get the government, to organize a referendum and we go back to federalism? Would this group still be useful?
What is a consortium? The only person who can order a referendum in Cameroon is the president of the republic, yes, or a third of the members of parliament.
Yes.
An ordinary group can never.
I'm saying, what if they succeed to get the government or to get the president to do it?
That is something long term. The assembly has just wound up its last session for this year, except an extraordinary session. I cannot see any extraordinary session between now and 1st January. It will be sometime next year. So, for me, those are long-term things. Imagine, for instance, the fact that children may lose a whole year, but this is the end of the first term. Friday is holiday time.
Yeah.
And if the strike goes beyond 1st January, then what is left? This is the only term when children really sit down and study. From January, 11 February, Labor Day, so many things, there are so many activities that even though that's the longest term, there's very little academic work. As for the third term, at times it's less than 1 month. So we are virtually on the verge of our children, losing a whole year. You know what it means for you to lose a whole year in your life?
So would you say that their demands are illogical?
The demands
of the the consortium, because they say that what they want, what should be granted for them to call off the strike, is a federation. The
people themselves don't really know what they are out for at times. They have undertaken in front of the Prime Minister that if one of their demands was fulfilled, they will call off the strike. They are adding more demands. On what basis now? On that point, the government is not completely wrong. Prepare and stamp your foot, because it simply means that we will go on indefinitely. When they satisfy the new demands, other new demands will come on. It is to the detriment of the children. People that are abroad are making all the noise. Their own children are going to school. The Anglophones who are on this side of the Mungu, losing nothing. Their children are going to school. Those who have money to go abroad, they will educate their children, and then the poor people back home, will continue to be poor because their own children are deprived of study.
Which means if you were to advise them, you will ask them to go back to classrooms.
No, I didn't call it a strike. I cannot say that.
If you were to advise them.
No, definitely I cannot advise them because, first of all, I don't know all their demands.